Welcome to the Behind the Girl Boss podcast, where every woman's journey takes center stage. Join us in this safe space as we explore the ins and outs of business, career, mental health, the music industry, and more. Whether you're a go-getter or a dream chaser, we've got stories for you. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok for an exclusive backstage pass. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and entertained. Welcome to the ride. Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back to the podcast. So today we have another guest and we have Pam with us. So hi Pam.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited for this conversation. Do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, sure. My name is Pam Muller, and I'm a dream expert and a certified spiritual director. And essentially, what I do is I help people navigate the meaning in their life through dreams and the spiritual path. So I usually work with deep feelers, introspective seekers, or people that are just tuned into their dreams for whatever reason and
Yeah.
kind of help teach them how to know what they mean.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into that. So how did you kind of get into the whole world of like dream analysis?
Yeah, it wasn't always my goal to be a dream
Mm-hmm.
expert per se. I didn't even know that was a thing that you could do. I was an elementary school teacher to start out in my first career. And gosh, in probably 2005, I entered this like dark night of the soul spiritual crisis of identity
Mm-hmm.
where I discovered that I didn't want to teach, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And on a personal level, my husband and I had run into infertility problems trying to start our family. And so I had just had this like full on crisis of I'm not
Yeah.
sure who I am and what I'm doing in the world. And dreams sort of emerged as this place where I could pretend to make sense of things because my waking life wasn't making any sense at
Yeah.
the time. So I just started by messing around and Googling what my dreams mean. I use dream dictionaries. My sister and I would talk about our dreams all the time. And it just really quickly became clear to me that there was actually something to it. Like
Yeah.
there was actually genuine guidance available to me in my dreams. And I just thought, it's crazy to me that that can be true and
Yeah.
nobody's teaching us about this. So that
Yeah.
became my platform where I was like, I want to give this to people because it's a free resource that they have every night available.
Yeah. And like why do we dream and like how do our dreams kind of come about?
Mm. Well, that's a big old question. Let's see where we're going to end up going with this one. So, you can think about your dreams sort of as a continuation of your mental activity, right? So, in the daytime, you're using your waking mind, your conscious mind, the things that your ego has control over for the most part. And when we go to sleep, the unconscious mind takes over and sort of continues processing the things you were working on during the day on
Mm-hmm.
your behalf. So, dreams are the sort of echoes of the unconscious mind's wanderings. And the imagery is the way that the unconscious mind uses to communicate to us.
Yeah.
So dreams are sort of a symbolic representation of what we're dealing with in waking life. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, the things that surface in dreams are the things that we are either not giving enough time and attention to because the issue is bigger than we have time to deal with, or stuff that we are consciously suppressing or even unconsciously suppressing during the day because for whatever reason we don't want to handle that issue. So
Yeah.
stuck emotions can really come through in the dream space, and then we can use the dream as like an entryway to get into that issue so that we can work through it and it doesn't have to keep showing up in our dreams.
Yeah. And I know some people dream in like black and white, some people dream in colors. Is there like a difference or like a differentiation between the two?
Oh, good question. I would say it's less about why we dream in color or why we don't dream in color.
Yeah.
And it's more about understanding that everybody's sort of dream personality is different.
Mm-hmm.
So, learning about your own perspective, like learning that you dream in color and others don't, tells you something about your dream personality. Another thing that might differ among dreamers is that some people dream in first person only. So, the POV is like straight from my view,
Yeah.
versus some people in every dream, they're sitting in the audience watching like a movie play out. So the personal perspective of each dreamer can change as well. And then for some people, that perspective changes from dream to dream. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just interesting. And the more you get to know about yourself, the more you can
Yeah.
understand what's normal for you as a dreamer And then when something abnormal happens, then you'll know to pay attention to that.
Yeah. Is there a reason why like sometimes we like dream in like POV and then sometimes we dream as like seeing it in an audience type of thing?
Well, from an interpretive standpoint, one of the ideas that I suggest in that is that it has to do with how close you're willing to get to an issue. So, if something is truly difficult for you to face,
Hmm.
you might dream about something happening in third person where you're just watching it from a
Yeah.
distance. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I never
Mhm.
even thought of that. And for people like myself, I feel like I either don't remember my dreams at all or I don't have any. Is there a reason why some people like really remember their dreams like everything from like start to finish versus people like me who either don't dream or don't remember them at all?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I have a quiz on my website about this. What kind of dreamer are you? So it sort of
Hmm.
falls into kind of three categories. You can be a casual dreamer, which it sounds like is what you're describing. If you just have a dream every once in a while, you
Yeah.
can be a classic dreamer, which is where I fall actually most of the time, which is remember maybe 2 to 3 dreams a week. Or you can be a complex dreamer. And some people just have that veil between conscious and unconscious is just
Yeah.
real thin. A lot of people who are highly creative or who have some intense emotional experiences in waking life or in their past might have a vivid dream life and might be complex dreamers.
Okay.
But I will say that they're not fixed types of dreamers. So you might notice that when you move into a new phase in life, your dreams become more prevalent for you, or you can remember more dreams. Or if you're learning something really hard, or if you go on vacation and your sleep patterns change,
Hmm.
that can bring about more dream recall sometimes as well. So it
Okay.
it moves in and out throughout life. Your dreams tend to. So just because you are a casual dreamer right now doesn't mean you will always be a casual dreamer. Or
Yeah.
just because you don't remember dreams right now, it doesn't mean they can't just start coming back at any minute.
Yeah, for sure. And there's this whole thing that if you dream of someone that like you haven't seen in a long time or spoke to in a long time, people say like, oh, it's because they're thinking of you. How
Mhm.
true is that?
Mm. Okay. Okay. So this is the mystery piece. This is the part of dreams that I really like to
Hmm.
dive into with people because, and I'm going to answer your question, but I just want to speak to this like
Yeah.
yumminess for a second. When I started getting into dreams, what I found was people would start with, okay, Pam, here's a dream for you. I bet you can't
Hmm.
figure this one out. And then they would end up like lowering their voice and going like, well, okay, but also I've never told anybody this. And then they would tell me some mystical, strange woo woo experience that they can't explain. So
Yeah.
dreams are like the perfect medium for us to use to get into what are the deeper questions about how we exist in connection with one
Yeah.
another, right? So the boring answer is if it's whatever you believe it is what it is, right? So
Okay.
if you have a dream and you wake up and you go, maybe that person was thinking about me. Maybe that person, is sort of coming back into my energetic field. Well, then that might be true for you. And if I have a dream about somebody, it might have a different meaning to it for
Hmm.
me. So
Yeah.
to each their own in the dream space. And dreamers are always the best interpreter of their own dreams. But I also find that people don't believe themselves.
Hmm.
And so they need somebody to validate it with them.
Yeah.
So dreams are the realm of mystery and intrigue, and they can really help you evaluate what your spiritual beliefs are,
Yeah.
you know? So it to each their own. My dad, for example, would have these really profound dreams. And I was his daughter and a dream expert. So he was like, all right, trying to help me out by
Yeah.
giving me his dreams, right? But then he would totally dismiss them and be like, but I think it was the pizza I ate the night before, probably just brought on those weird dreams.
Hmm.
And my role is to be like, you're probably right for you. That's
Yeah.
probably true for you that that's what it was, right? So dreams can take you as deep as you're interested in going in the spiritual realm.
Yeah. And going off that, does food actually affect the type of dreams we have?
It sure does. Yeah,
Okay, that's
food,
cool.
medication, the different behaviors we have before we go to sleep for sure affect
Mm.
our dreams. I like to think about it as, sometimes the food that we eat can have like a funhouse mirror effect on our dreams, meaning they can take a dream and kind of make it, even amplify the weirdness of it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that those things don't still have meaning. So it's
Yeah.
not like we should just dismiss it altogether, but we should maybe take the fact that it was a, bear as big as a house. Well, let's look at the symbolism of a bear and kind of let it assume that if there was something disruptive right before you went to sleep, that maybe that, exaggerated the symbol a little bit, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, yeah, for sure.
When people have high fevers and they talk about fever dreams, it kind of does still have that funhouse effect, but there's still some of your like raw psyche
Hmm.
material that makes its way into there
Yeah.
symbolically.
Yeah. And how does like reoccurring dreams kind of work? Because I feel like sometimes if I ever do have a dream and I'm like, oh, like I want to have that dream again, but I never know how to like do it. And some people always have like the same type of dream. So like how does that kind of work?
Yeah. Okay. So this is something that I have come to realize recently, which is that it is because we can't control our dreams that makes them trustworthy.
Hmm.
If we could control our dreams, we would have much less useful information to work from, I think. Now
Yeah.
there's a whole lucid dream world, and the whole lucid dream people don't get mad at me because I do support lucid dreaming. But when it comes to recurring dreams, usually the recurring dreams are not things that we've chosen. They just happen to have picked up a pattern. And actually,
Yeah.
that's what you can think of with recurring dreams is that it is like your unconscious has chosen this particular symbol or this particular dream story to represent like a triggered event from your past. Okay.
Okay.
So the way that you would trace back a recurring dream to figure out what it means is you want to figure out when it began. So when I ask the question, when did you first have this recurring dream? People will sometimes say, I don't know, I was around 13. And then we'll say, what happened when you were 13? And sometimes they can connect it with something like, well, we
Yeah.
moved out of state when I was 13. Okay. So if that's the case and we can trace it back to some event, then you can say, okay, the set of emotions that comes up in this recurring dream is the set of emotions that happened when that waking
Yeah.
life event happened, right? So then when that pattern of emotion shows up again, it might bring up that dream again in waking life.
Yeah.
So with recurring dreams, it's like a habit that your dreaming mind has picked up. And your dreaming mind will just reissue that same dream
Hmm.
when you have that emotional pattern in waking life.
Yeah. And is it possible to kind of like not like control the dreams or like let's say I'm going to bed and I'm like I want to dream about this and like I try and think about it a lot before I fall asleep. Is that like a way to control what I'm dreaming about?
Yeah, the way I like to say it is that you can influence your dreams or
Okay.
you can request stuff in
Okay.
your dream space. The dreaming mind has sort of a mind of its own because your ego goes to sleep.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, a lot of people use that as a great way to get guidance on a particular topic. You can go to sleep and say, I'd really like to know about X, about my career choice next, or I'm thinking about doing this. What
Hmm.
do you have to offer? And then you would write down the very next dream you get. And then you would interpret that dream as a perspective or some new information to apply to the question that you asked.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about, I think, is suggesting, for example, that I go swimming in my dream or
Yeah.
whatever. Like I want to swim. So the more you focus on it as you fall asleep, the more you're able to kind of lay that suggestion lightly at the foot of your dream
Hmm.
mind and see if your dreams will pick it up for you.
Yeah. And is it possible to kind of while you're dreaming kind of control what's happening in this situation?
So, what you're talking about there is lucid dreaming.
Okay.
Lucid dreaming is any time that you're aware that you're dreaming and still inside of a dream. Anytime you become consciously aware that you're in a dream. So, lucid dreaming is possible. It's the same as the what type of dreamer are you question. Some people are nighttime, like regular lucid dreamers, every night when they go to bed, they can control every one of their dreams, or they can
Hmm.
participate consciously in every
Yeah.
one of their dreams. Other people have never had a lucid dream in their life, and it's a very difficult thing to try to become lucid in the dream. It kind of takes a lot of practice for that.
Yeah.
So there's lots of variations on being able to become lucid in a dream.
Yeah. Is there like a way to train your like brain to like lucid dream?
Mhm. Yeah, there are. The most common suggestion for lucid dreaming is to start practicing what are called reality checks during the day, where you come up with a behavior
Hmm.
and you try to do that behavior several times a day. And when you do the behavior, you kind of say, like, am I asleep? Am I dreaming right now? So for example, you can just look at your hand or count your fingers and, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, am I dreaming right now? And the idea is I'm going to do that behavior, that reality check for weeks, for 5 times a day for several weeks in a row, so that it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And then the idea is when I am dreaming, that habit will show up, and something in asking the question, am I dreaming, will cue me into, no, this doesn't look right.
Hmm.
Or this isn't reality, this must be a dream. So you can sort of train your brain to keep checking to see if you're dreaming, and then when that happens in the dream, then you're lucid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what would be the difference between that and like kind of daydreaming?
mm. Okay, so when you are asleep, your unconscious mind is doing the brain activity. The most of
Hmm.
the activity is that unconscious mind thinking. Okay, so let's just stay for a second with lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
The idea psychologically is that when I become lucid in a dream, me, Pam, in the dream represents my ego identity, or everything I know about myself. And all the other characters and symbols and events in the dream are the unconscious part of me. And I can actually interact with those characters and learn something about myself.
Hmm.
Because let's say I dream of, I don't know why I just thought of an old man bus driver, but let's go with that. All right. We're on a city bus in my dream. I become lucid and I start having a conversation with the bus driver. The bus driver's response to me is guidance. It's part of
Yeah.
my unconscious that I'm not, as my ego self, like integrating yet. And so I
Hmm.
can learn a lot from that character in my dream.
Yeah.
In a daydream, it's much more waking mind centric. And so you may not get as much interactive information
Okay.
as you
Yeah.
could get if you were in a lucid dream. But
Hmm.
you still are in a daydream in that space of, when you're in a daydream, things just start to happen without you
Yeah.
planning or thinking about them. So you are still inviting the unconscious material in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there like risks or like benefits to lucid dreaming like every night?
No, I don't think that I don't really know how to answer that question. I guess I'll tell you my perspective
Yeah.
on lucid dreaming. I mean, I think when I learned that my dreams are giving me new information
Hmm.
that my ego mind doesn't have yet,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I want to insert my conscious ego mind into a dream and start telling people how to act or what to do. Like
Yeah.
I kind of want to be the observer because I'd like to take in new
Yeah.
information. So I think lucid dreaming is probably could be really useful. And maybe the reason I'm saying all this is because I'm not a lucid dreamer,
Yeah.
actually. I think if I were one of those people who was always able to easily drop in, I might have a completely different opinion
Hmm.
about it.
Oh yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
And if we talk about nightmares, because I feel like a lot of people deal with nightmares and stuff like that, would you say that they're always bad or can they like help with personal growth or things like that?
I mean, I think one of the sort of tenets of dream work in my world is that Jeremy Taylor, who's a great leader in the industry of like dream teaching, and he's an author, and he said all dreams come in the service of health and wholeness.
Hmm.
And so if I think about my nightmares being a continuation of my fears during the day, what's useful about them coming up as a nightmare is that they are shown to me in a story form, and I can learn from that story form, like how to tame the fear or how to
Yeah.
address and face that anxiety. So there are ways that dreams are helpful. Like I'll give you a very personal example. When I was going through infertility, it was such a big trauma in my life at the time
Yeah.
that I couldn't even start to talk about it with anybody. Like I was in denial for a long time, and
Mhm.
then I was in like paralysis because I didn't know how to address it or what to do. And a dream would emerge, and it would give me, like, for example, one of the ones I talk about a lot is one day in my dreams I was walking through the winter woods. It was like all white and peaceful and quiet, but I was deep in the woods, and I came upon this pool of the deepest, bluest water you've ever seen. And there were little baby seahorses in the pool. And it was this dream. I woke up, I was like, wow, that was so cool. And I wanted to
Yeah.
describe it and I wanted to talk about the seahorses. And lo and behold, the more I talked about this story, the more I started to understand that those seahorses represented embryos,
Yeah.
and the whiteness in the woods represented infertility clinic and hospital, assistance and like the
Yeah.
healthcare industry. And so it allowed me to approach a big, scary issue in a really open way of curiosity. So
Yeah.
that's the benefit of being able to take your nightmare and look at it as a story, is you
Mhm.
start to really come at your problem or your fear with open curiosity,
Yeah.
and it gives
Yeah.
you a way in.
Yeah, for sure. And talking about nightmares and stuff, one of the bigger reasons why I want to have like a dream expert on the podcast is because I deal with like sleep paralysis and I've
Oh
dealt
my
with it.
goodness.
Yeah, I've dealt with it since I was like 12, 13.
Mm.
So how would you describe like sleep paralysis and why does it kind of happen? Because I've been trying to research and like figure out why I get this, and I get it less now, but it's just like it's very scary and like not fun. And now I feel like I'm in a place that I've had it so much that like I can kind of like control it or like know when it's happening and kind of
Mm.
snap out of it. But how does it kind of come about?
Well, first of all, the fact that you have such personal experience with it means that this conversation is going to help so many people
Hmm.
because they're going to be listening to you. So
Yeah.
I would be interested to hear too from you about your experience being able to learn to like control it or whatever, or
Hmm.
respond to it in a way. I'm not a sleep specialist, but my
Hmm.
understanding of sleep paralysis is that it is sort of a glitch in the chemistry of sleep. So when we all go to sleep, a hormone is emitted or a chemical is emitted from our brain that paralyzes our large muscle groups
Hmm.
so that we can sleep and we don't act out our dreams. In fact, they did
Yeah.
a research study with, I think, cats where they eliminated that chemical and the cats would like chase around imaginary mice all night.
Mhm.
So the chemical is a natural part of the sleep process. So when you are waking up or falling asleep and the chemical gets in your system before you're fully asleep, or the chemical paralyzes your muscles after you're starting to wake up, you still have that
Mhm.
chemical in your muscles. What happens is your waking mind goes, hang on, I can't move. Why
Yeah.
can't I move? It jumps to the logical, oh, we must be frozen in fear. What are we afraid of? And then the dreaming mind takes over and goes, oh, we need fearful things? Here we go. But my understanding, and I have not experienced sleep paralysis personally, is that the experience people describe is that no, my eyes are open and I can see a figure, or I
Mhm.
feel a figure sitting on my chest, or it becomes these really scary, demonic sometimes
Yeah.
experiences. And because the chemical is still there, you literally can't move and respond, which generates more panic and more fear.
Yeah.
Does that encapsulate it
Yeah, so
really?
like the first time I've ever had sleep paralysis, it was like really weird because I never experienced it, and it was like a demon-like figure like came from my door through my room and then like on top of me. And like with sleep paralysis, like you try and yell, but like obviously like nothing's actually happening. I don't even know what someone looks like during that. But after having it so many times, I would kind of like be like, "Oh, like this is happening again." And I don't know, like in my head, I would be like, "Oh, it's just sleep paralysis and it's not real." And then when I would say that to myself in my head, it would just stop. So I guess like what
Wow.
you're talking about, like the fear thing, like maybe my brain's like knows now that it's just like my brain doing it to me. I don't know. It's like really weird.
Yeah.
And like the whole like demon figure thing too was like strange. And I had this one time that like is very prominent to me where I felt like it was choking me. And then I woke up and like my chest was like red. And I was like, that's so weird. Like I feel like maybe I was choking myself, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's so interesting to me. But I'm happy that I'm able to like snap out of it now because
Yeah.
it lasts less long.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that that is your experience now.
Hmm.
And I'm so sorry it's been so terrifying
Oh, it's
before then.
okay.
I kind of want to speak for a minute. I don't want to
Hmm.
discount because it's like I said before, it's like the dreamer is always right, right? So
Yes.
for people who for whom that is a genuine encounter, I don't want to discount that and say, no, that's just sleep paralysis. That's just your
Yes.
right, because your reality is your reality.
Yeah.
And I kind of hold space open for everybody's belief because I think that's a genuine experience.
Hmm.
The other thing that I want to say is there are actually some other things that you can do to help if sleep paralysis comes again, in addition to what you've already described, which is
Yeah.
recognizing and speaking to yourself in a way that sort of shifts yourself out of fear. Because your large muscle group is paralyzed, your smaller muscles are still able to move. And so something like trying to wiggle your pinkies, your pinky fingers or your toes is a thing that can trigger you to come all the way out of sleep
Okay.
paralysis. And the other thing is if you can't move your fingers and toes, you can try to change your breathing pattern, which gives you a sense of control. Or you can do like blinking your eyes really hard and trying to open them again, like doing that. So those smaller muscle movements can be the thing that brings you right out of sleep
Yeah.
entirely. So that
That's
might
cool.
help as
I'll
well.
definitely try it. Hopefully, I don't have that again, but I'll definitely
Yeah.
try it if it does occur. How did you kind of come about like working in this industry? Like, do you have to get like certification or
Yeah.
trainings? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I found my way to eventually to a school called the Hayden Institute, which
Okay.
trains spiritual directors from a mystical Christian Jungian perspective, and they focus on dream work. And so it was like school for Pam. Like I just kind of found my
Yeah.
way to that particular institute. There is an International Association for the Study of Dreams. You can go to asdreams.org, and it's like a whole resource bank of courses and articles and research and public. It's just phenomenal. So I'm a member of the IASD organization. But yeah, when I first discovered it, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want people to sit on my couch and tell me their dreams, and I want to
Yeah.
help them rediscover themselves. Like, and I carved my own path is the true
Hmm.
answer. As an empath, I knew that I was really good at sitting with people and holding safe space for people to
Yeah.
go into the depths of that. And so my path was to get into the field of spiritual direction and to continue to do study and continuing education on dreams and reading everything I could get my hands on
Yeah.
the topic of dream interpretation.
Yeah. And what kind of services do you offer? Is it like one-off services? Is it like subscriptions? Like, how does that work?
It's a little bit of everything because
Hmm.
I have big energy and I'm always like churning out more stuff, as you've
Yeah.
seen on TikTok. Right now, I have a subscription program called the Moonlight Membership because I feel like moonlighting is the thing that we're all doing when we're like really being woo-woo in our inner life and
Yeah.
trying to pretend we're normal in our day life. We're all just moonlighting
Yeah.
as, spiritual people. So the Moonlighting membership is the current subscription, and that will get you access to 3 different courses on dream interpretation and a monthly live conversation that I call the Dream Practice Lab, where we get to get into it and practice all of that stuff. Moonlight membership and also one-offs. Yes, I do one-on-one sessions with people all the time. And I want to add that some people come for dream work only and they're
Hmm.
not interested in the spiritual component, which is perfectly fine. And some people come for the spiritual component because, like I said, I'm an empath
Yeah.
and a trained spiritual director, and they don't ever bring a dream to me. To
Hmm.
me, the sessions are one and the same.
Yeah.
We're just looking at the stories that you're bringing to the table and finding the symbolism and the meaning and the patterns in them.
Yeah. No, I love
Yeah.
that. So the last part of my podcast, I asked people on Instagram to ask you questions, and I picked two of my favorite ones. So the first one is, can dreams predict the future?
Yes.
That's
Yes, they certainly can, but they don't always. Here's the thing I want to say about it. I believe that if you track your dreams on a regular basis,
hmm
you're going to see predictive material even in the dreams that don't like wake you up and it's like, oh
Yeah.
my God, that whole thing came true. I think that the predictive material is woven into the dream space
Mhm.
a lot more subtly. And then sometimes you get one of those big dreams that can just
Yeah.
show you something and then it happens in waking life. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last one is, what are your thoughts on dream sharing when two people claim to have had the same dream?
Oh, that's a really great question. That is a thing that also happens, just like
Mhm.
precognition. And again, it's the mystery part. This is the part I want to hear the stories. I can't tell you what it means when that happens,
Yeah.
other than it's the interconnectivity for all of us, right? My sister and her best friend who hadn't seen each other since college, we all got together for our girls' weekend and we went to bed on the first night and they slept with their heads up against each other. We were in
hmm
cots and so their heads were together. And the next morning, one of them shared the dream and the other one was like, nope, that was, I dreamt the same thing. And so when they had that dream sharing moment, it's just this really special opportunity for all
Yeah.
of us to drop into our interconnectivity and have those
Cool.
like big wow moments.
Yeah.
I
No, I
love
love
it.
that.
Mm.
Well, that's all I had for you today. So thank you so much again for coming on and sharing all that. I love this conversation. It's just so interesting. I'm excited to like keep following you on TikTok and seeing more things. But if anyone else is interested in following you or potentially working with you, do you want to shout out your socials, where people can find you?
Oh, thank you. Yes, Sweet Georgia Pam. So I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Sweet Georgia Pam, and my website is sweetgeorgiapam.com. And if anybody is out there and you guys are going to go look it up, please let me know that you heard me on this podcast so we can give a shout out to Amanda as well. And I'm going to keep an eye out on you and stay in touch.
Yes. Well, thank you so much again
Yeah.
for coming on and sharing all this.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for all your questions.